Hi, I'm Dylan Toe from Everlook Photography, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Sirui R2214x tripod, which is a tripod I've acquired this year to replace the N2204 tripod that I've been using for the last 2.5 years that is starting to get a little bit banged up. So most of my reference points will be Sirui versus Sirui and the elements that I like, and keep in mind that I've only used this tripod for a 2-week trip through British Columbia and Washington State. So it hasn't had extensive use, but it's still working very well. So the main thing I was going to be focusing on is how portable the tripod is for someone who travels a lot, some design elements, and then its performance that I've found so far. So in terms of portability, you can see that compared with the old tripod, it's a bigger tripod. You know, the legs are bigger, they're 10 times carbon fiber versus 6. It stands at 145 centimeters without the center column, and when you put the center column in, it's 183 centimeters. And I've actually found this feature useful shooting in Disneyland of all places, shooting above people's heads and so forth. But it can be useful in landscape photography when, for instance, your legs are very low and you're on uneven ground and you need that extra height to shoot the perspective that you want. So the height elements of it are very useful. Now I'm going to do all of this in real time, so bear in mind this is after 2 weeks of constant shooting, and you can see the legs fold up very well. The question is, how well does it fold up? It folds up to a reported 51 centimeters, which is pretty good. And with the bag that comes with it, you can see that you can put it in, and it fits the K20 ball head quite comfortably. So that's a bug that I had with previous bags, where it would fit the tripod itself, but you had the ball head kind of sticking out. So thankfully the bag is well designed to have a moderate sized tripod at the end of it. The N2204 folded up better. And you can see that's pretty stiff. You might not be able to appreciate that. Now, one thing to be wary of with tripods that report very small folding up sizes is that they tend to fold over the top of themselves. And I can't get this to do it anymore, but and that's one design element I'll discuss. But basically, when they fold on top of each other, there's some space left over, which means that I get worried that when they're packed in a bag, some pressure might break them, and it's actually not more compact than when the legs are pressed together like that. So I think 51 centimeters with the new tripod, without kind of folding over the top, is actually a good kind of size for portability. In terms of weight, this is 1.6 kilograms without the center column versus 1.3, so it's still something I'm going to be bringing on long backpacking trips. That weight doesn't really deter me. So let's talk about some design elements now, and I'll just kind of extend the legs fully again. So you can see it's still very smooth after a couple of weeks of shooting in seascapes and forests and getting grit and stuff in. So you can see underneath here, you've got an attachable G-lock mechanism even without the center column. And if you want to attach that center column, it's got a mechanism where there are 3 locks, 1, 2, 3, that are all adjustable with an Allen key. And this is how long it would take you to put in a center column if you wanted to. So undo one, undo a second, undo a third. I found that when I'm shooting, I've opted to either bring the center column attached or not, and most times not, because when light's changing, I'm not sure if I really have the time to do what I'm doing now. Okay, so that's the center column attachment and removal, which doesn't take long, but I just don't think you have the time to be able to do that in the field when conditions are changing. Now, I mentioned this comes out to 183 centimeters when fully attached, and once you put your ball head and your camera above that, you're really shooting from about a 6'6" kind of position, so you should be able to overcome a lot of obstacles in terms of not getting the right perspective and so forth. So I quite like that center column, but I don't actually bring it on the field with me. The next thing is how low it can go. So I'm going to just fold this back up and compare it to the old tripod. So what I might do is I might get to show you how the mechanism works. You just pull it out and then it snaps back in. Pull it out, snaps back in. Pull it out, snaps back in. And I've got the wrong setup here, but you can see without the center column there, this basically goes flat on the ground, and I've used that to take a few shots with an ultra low perspective. Now, why I really like the feature of this pull-out mechanism is that if we compare it to the older models, and you saw the problems I was having earlier, is this kind of flip mechanism which over time gets stuck, and you can't actually get it to open far enough without kind of banging it with your knuckles. That just hurts in the cold. I'm not going to be doing that all the time. And sometimes you can see all the wear and tear there. I've had to use rocks to get it to go to the right position. So I think it's a big design improvement with the new kind of flip out mechanism in order to lower the tripod further. Okay. One last thing about design that I'll mention is that I really like these oversized rubber leg locks. They're kind of more grippy and so forth. And when you're cleaning them as well, I'm just going to show you one really well thought out thing that I think more people should do. Have you ever had a problem where you see the gap between the two plastic gaskets? You're trying to figure out where do you put them. Well, this tripod's got an arrow as to where you put the gap there, so you can just slide it straight back in without fiddling around. So I appreciated that, and I thought that was extremely well thought out. While we're on the legs, you've got exchangeable rubber footings versus metal spikes. This is in contrast with the old tripod where you had basically retractable spikes. Now, the problem with the old tripod is that they're stuck now, so they're stuck on spikes. And so if I don't want to be using the spikes, I've got no option now. So one of the good things about what Sirui have done with the new one is that there's a hole there, which I think is probably for drainage as well. But if you're stuck, if they're really stuck, you can insert an Allen key and kind of lever it out. So I think that's a really good kind of design element of Sirui's that they've introduced with those exchangeable leg locks. So now, what about overall performance so far? I probably can't demonstrate it too well here, but when I've had the tripod legs fully extended with spikes over rocky ground and it's slightly uneven, I've found that when I'm trying to set up, the most extended leg will still kind of slide a little bit, and so there's probably a little bit of flex you can see in the legs there. So I've never actually broken a carbon fibre leg before, but it does worry me that it flexes a little bit as to whether or not it could cause some artifacts, say with flowing water and so forth, because there is a little bit of vibration I've noticed when I've been in streams and in seascapes. But I'll just show you a sample of a raw where we've had quite fast rushing water, and it doesn't seem to have caused the theoretical problem that this flex might cause and the vibration might cause. So that's the performance from a stability point of view. One concern I've had is when these rubber footings have been immersed in water, particularly salt water, I've found that they slide. So this makes it very difficult for me to adjust the tension and to slide the legs in and out. So I've had to actually grip them really tight in order to get the rubber to catch on. So I guess it's a watch this space to see whether or not that becomes an issue. I didn't actually notice it with the older tripod until maybe a year and a half into use. So that's probably one of my concerns about using it. So we're down to kind of overall impressions now after a 2-week shoot, which is, I guess, a little bit limited. But overall, I think for $700 Australian, which is what you pay for this tripod, you get fairly good bang for buck, say, when you compare to the more expensive stuff like Gitzo and so forth. It's got a lot of well thought out design features that I've found very useful, such as the changing of angle, the low position, the stability of changing out your center column, as well as what they've done with the footing changes. So the only kind of concerns I have is mainly around these rubber leg locks. I don't know how they're going to perform in the extreme cold, because the coldest I went to was maybe -5 up in Mount Rainier and so forth, and in the extreme wet as well. So for this tripod to have just one concern after all that time, I think it's pretty good, and I certainly would recommend this tripod if you're looking for a replacement that's for travel and for which you need sturdiness to carry a decent load, and for if you want to shoot down low or very high. So it's very versatile and stable. That's my conclusion about this tripod.